Hello and welcome to this week's video. Now this week I wanted to revisit a topic that I actually touched on probably just over 2 years ago when I first got my Sony A7r3 full frame camera. I actually did a video where I used some old vintage glass from the 80s on that camera, and I was really actually pleasantly surprised at the quality of the images that I got. Now I'll put a link to that video up here so you can have a look at that one if you want. But I want to revisit it because recently I made a camera change for reasons, and again, of getting a lighter weight setup. Now if anybody wants to watch that video, I'll put a link up there now to that video. It's the reason I switched from the A7r3 to this, which is the Sony A6400. Now the major difference between this and the A7r3 is this is a crop sensor camera, which is why it's significantly smaller. So I got me thinking, what would vintage lenses be like on that camera? And what further pushed me in that direction is, if people have been watching the channel for a while, they'll know that I've recently been doing some film photography. Absolutely enjoying it actually, and I think I may have a bit of an obsession because this arrived in the post this morning, which is a Pentax, I think it's a MX, which I think at the time it was produced in the sort of 70s, 80s, was probably the smallest SLR on the market. Really, I mean, if you get one of these in your hand, it's really solidly made. It's probably why it survived so long, to be honest. It's just come with a nifty 50 1.7 lens, but again, obviously Pentax fit. And I just thought, well, what would these lenses be like on my Sony A6400, having had such good results with a full frame camera? So anyway, what I've decided to do this week is give that a test. Now, and for anybody wanting to do this themselves, obviously the things that you need, essentially a digital camera. It doesn't have to be Sony, Fuji, Olympus, anything like that. A digital camera. And then you need one of these. This is the important bit. Now this is an adapter. This cost me about 20 quid, I think. And all these is a metal tube, and on one side you'll have a fitting for the lens. So in this case, this is a Pentax K mount fitting. And then on the back is obviously that fits to the camera. So that, in this instance, is a Sony E mount fitting, which enables me to put a K mount lens on there and the Sony A6400 on that side. Now, as I say, if you look on places like Amazon, you'll find that there's hundreds of configurations of these. So, you know, there'll be a Fuji mount on the back and a Pentax on the front, or an Olympus and a Canon on the front, so that you can, you know, get those different configurations of lenses on your camera. But as I already have a Pentax lens, and I actually saved one of the old Pentax lenses I used in the last test because I was so impressed with the images it gave me, I didn't really want to get rid of it. So all you need is your camera, an adapter, as I say, appropriate to the lenses that you're going to use so it can fit to the camera, and then just a selection of lenses. Now obviously I'm going to take this 50mm lens out with me and see what results I get with that. I've also got a 28mm lens here. This is it's a K mount fit, but it's not a Pentax lens. It's like an equivalent of a third party. So say a Sigma or a Tamron of the time. This is a Auto Super Paragon PMC. So I don't know what results at all I'm going to get from that. That's going to be my widest lens. And then, as I said, I've got this, which is one I kept from last time because I loved it so much. And this is an SMC Pentax M f3.5 135mm lens. So I've got quite a wide range that I can cover there. Now obviously what you have to bear in mind with a crop sensor camera is the 1.6 crop factor. So in essence, a 28mm lens, which is the one I've got here, will be more like a 45mm lens. The 50mm will be more like an 80mm lens, and the 135 will be more like a 216mm lens. So I've not really got as wide a shot as I like. Obviously there are ways around that with digital cameras. You know, you can just shoot 3 shots, 6 shots, join them together and make a longer shot, a panorama if you like, if I need to. So that's not a problem, that's easy enough to do. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a wider lens. The trouble is, obviously in film camera times, 28mm was wide enough, because that was, you know, that was full frame. Your film camera was full frame at that. So I think you do get some 24s. I've not really seen anything much wider than that from that period. Anyway, I'm going to head off up into somewhere nice and scenic, probably in the Peak District, and I'll meet you up there and we'll see what we can do with these lenses. Right, as I suggested in the introduction there, I've made my way into the Peak District, and it's a lovely morning actually. We've had to travel through a lot of really thick fog to get here, but we seem to have, because we've climbed a little bit higher, we seem to have come out of it at the minute. And I've actually come to the place where I shot last week's video, and I'll put a link to that up here if you're interested in the red deer rut. But yeah, it's a place called Big Moor. It's a place I hadn't been to before, but last week I did take the landscape kit just in case I couldn't find the red deer. And obviously you'll see from that video that I did. But I did notice that there was quite a few possible compositions for some landscape images up here. There's an old Victorian reservoir a bit further down, and I think what I'm going to do as well, when we've done some photography on Big Moor, I'm going to pop back across the road, because there's a really steep slope and some woodland, which again might work well with these vintage lenses. So I'll catch up with you a little bit later when I've found a composition. Right, I'm in position for my first shot of the day, and to be honest, I'm not surprised. I've actually taken it with the 135mm lens. As I say, I've got experience with this lens before when I was shooting it with the A7r3, and I just really came across this scene here. It's going to be difficult to show you because I'm shooting directly into the sun, so I'll try and swing you around. Now we've got this mist hanging in the valley, and obviously the trees have all lost the leaves now, so it's a really ghostly scene, if you like. It's just like skeletal trees with mist. Yeah, one of the things with this old Pentax 135mm lens is that it's got a built-in lens hood, so I'm using that to good effect here, just to try and shield the lens from any sunlight getting in. I'm actually shooting directly into the sun, and on the back of the camera it looks really nice shot. So I'm shooting at f11, ISO 100, and currently it's about a 400th of a second, but I've been shooting from about a 200th of a second just as the lights changed. As I say, the lighting conditions for an old lens really couldn't get much more difficult than this, so hopefully that's worked out okay. As I say, I've used this lens before and it's not let me down. £40 lens, and this is the images it produces. So yeah, I'll put that one up on the screen now. Right, I've just set up for another shot, this time again using the A6400,
I've put the 50mm Pentax lens on for this. Another sort of layering shot really. We've still got quite a lot of this mist and fog hanging around, even though the sun's been fully up for a couple of hours now. There's actually a fog bank just coming in. I can see it actually flowing across the moors and coming this way, so that could be quite interesting in a minute. What I've got basically in this scene, and I'll turn you around so you can have a look. I've got this silver birch tree here now. I'd prefer actually to be a little bit lower down, so that's cutting the horizon, but if I get lower down I lose the layering in the trees behind, which I really like. With that fog you just lose it and get more sky and not, you know, any of that, so it doesn't really work as a composition, even though that feels as though it'd be a better shot. As you can see, there's a fog bank just coming on across here, just rolling down that valley. Hopefully that's going to change the scene a little bit as well. The sun's currently behind a little bit of cloud, so I'm going to see if that improves the shot when that comes out. I'm not shooting directly into it, but it will test this lens to see whether we do actually get any flare. Leia's just sneaking down actually because there's some red deer in front. You won't see them on this picture, but hopefully she'll be able to sneak across there. She won't be in my shot, I don't think. And if she is, I'll just clone her out. So yeah, I'm gonna, and the sun's coming out now, so that is making this quite a nice shot. I just hope this lens handles that sun. So I'm going to keep shooting. I'm shooting at f11, ISO 100, and obviously the shutter speed's changing. I'm about 25th of a second at the minute, and I'll keep adjusting that as the light changes. But yeah, it's a nice shot. As I say, it's not perfect, and I can't get into that position. The tree could have done with being slightly higher up and closer towards me. Just one or two different things, so it cuts the horizon. I would have liked it better, but you know, you can't have everything. So yeah, we'll keep shooting and see what happens. The only thing I've noticed so far with the 28mm, I did try a few more sort of wide angle shots with that, which I think would have looked nice, but to be honest, it's either picking up flare or there is a slight defect in the lens. I've got a really sharp point of light that keeps appearing, so if that's on the image, I'll show that so that you can see. As I say, I'm shooting slightly into the sun, so that's not going to be helping. But what I will do, I'll try and take some shots pointing away from the sun a little bit later and see if that defect still shows up. The 50mm and the 135mm, both Pentax SMC lenses, they're actually performing really well as far as I can see on the back of the camera so far. So anyway, that's all I can report at the minute. I'm going to try and take some more shots, and I'll see you back here in a while. Right, we've come off the moors, and we've actually spent a couple of hours wandering around in this woodland area. Obviously, once the sun got fairly high in the sky, it's quite difficult to shoot on the moors, especially with having at the time not a lot of detail in the sky either. So we dropped down into these woodlands, and I have to say it's been quite a challenge. I'm not sure whether it's because we're getting to the period where a lot of the leaves are off the trees now. I really wanted to try and get another shot with that 28mm where I wasn't shooting into the sun, just to see whether that problem with the lens is still a problem when I'm not shooting towards the sun. It seemed to be that there's probably a fault in the lens that the light's catching, and maybe, you know, if you're not shooting with the sun sort of in front of you, then that won't cause a problem. But I haven't found a real composition to do that with today, so that's going to have to be tested for another time. But what I have done is, obviously there's still quite a lot of autumn colour over here in this hillside, as you can see. So what the 135mm lens, I've gone for that one again, what it does is it enables me to sort of pick out those small details. And there are a couple of silver birch trees in amongst there, and obviously their silver trunks do stand out quite well. So I've taken a couple of shots of that, picked them out over there actually. There's a sort of some lighter coloured leaves on the trees in front, and then it gradually gets darker as you go further back. So I've been trying at various, again ISO 100, I'm at 1,000th of a second at the minute, that's how bright the light is at the minute, and I'm shooting at f3.5, so I'm going to try a few different apertures just to see whether that works better or worse, trying to just keep sort of a small part of the image in full focus, or whether it looks better if a lot of it is in focus. Anyway, I'll put that shot up now and see what you think. Right, I know that's only been a very short review of these three lenses. One of the lenses, actually the 135, as I've already said, I've used that before. Now if we start with that lens, I would have no trouble at all recommending this lens. You know, if you're looking for a sort of medium telephoto, and bearing in mind on a crop sensor camera this will be 216mm, so it has got a fair amount of reach. For £40, you know, on places like eBay, it's a real steal, I think. You know, the image quality that you get from it is really, really good. I can't say that I would be able to tell the difference between this and definitely a modern kit lens, and potentially, you know, something a little bit better. So that's one, you know, as I say, I've used before, and using it again today on this crop sensor, not a problem at all, absolutely fantastic. Now the 50mm, again this is the same, it's a SMC Pentax 50mm 1.7, and again this today, I've only used it on this camera today, but it performed faultlessly. Looking at the images, they do appear to be extremely sharp. I think with like most lenses, if you stop it down slightly, so you know, rather than shooting at 1.7, if you push it up to 2.8, then you know you do get a jump in image quality. But again, just like the 135mm, really not had a problem with this today. And again, just remember that I think is about a 70mm on a crop sensor camera. So I'm going to be keeping these two for use not only with the A6400 but also obviously with my film cameras. But yeah, cracking image quality really for the price. Again, you know, under 40 quid. Now the one that has caused me a bit of problem, and this is this 28mm Auto Super Paragon PMC. I don't know, I want to try it a little bit more, I want to test it out a little bit more, but if there's any that will be going, it will be this one at the minute. And I don't know, if you look at the lens when I'm looking at it, I can see some light reflecting on the front that looks odd compared to everything else. It's as if there is some slight fault in the glass, and that became really obvious on that image I showed you, that where I was shooting more or less into the sun. The other two lenses didn't have a problem with it. Yeah, and as I was saying, the 135mm has that built-in sun shield, which even helps further if you need it. So those two didn't cause me a problem. This one, yeah, there may be an issue with it, so it may be the one that I do get rid of, I don't know. I really do want to test it a little bit more though. Seeing as this is the widest, this is at about 45mm I think on the crop sensor camera. But again, this is the only one that isn't a Pentax brand. It's like a third party, so maybe that might be indicating that there is some quality issues with lenses that aren't actually from the main maker, if you like. But it could be that I've just got an odd one that's got a bit of a problem. Again, you know, under 40 quid, and that will be getting some more testing. And actually I might get another 28 just to test alongside it, just to confirm or remove any suspicions that I've got of it. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. As I say, it's only a short review, really just to show you that you can use old glass with modern digital cameras. And as I say, if you spend £800, £900, £1,000 on a digital camera, it can be that then that the lenses that you want, you may not be able to buy straight away because it's a big outlay all at once. And it may be, you know, you just use these as a stopgap until you save up for something better. But as I say, I think you could comfortably shoot, if you get a good copy of one of these lenses, you know, you could comfortably shoot with one of these with a digital body and nobody would be able to tell the difference. There's some cracking bits of glass out there. Yeah, I mean, I think these lenses, obviously you pick them up off places like eBay for under 40 quid. And I think what you've really got to do is, when you're looking for a lens, obviously you can't test it, and there's always that possibility that you're going to get one like this that maybe have a fault in it or something. As I say, that's unconfirmed, the jury's out on that one. But what you can do is you can look at the condition that the lens is when you're buying it. Some of them are sold by companies that do sell them, and you might pay a few extra quid by that, but what they'll say to you is that the lens has been tested, fully tested, and it's working, etc, etc. So you know then that you've got a working lens. The new Pentax camera I just bought, I bought it off a gentleman who's, I think it was his father's kit that he was selling off, and he basically said, you know, if you're not happy with it, I'm quite happy for you to return it. So obviously that gives me confidence that, you know, he's happy with the condition of the item he's selling. So just look out for little things like that. You know, obviously if you're going to buy one that looks grubby, potentially it's not going to be a very good lens, or it could be a lot cheaper and it just needs cleaning up, but obviously you take that risk when you buy it. Anyway, that's me done for this video. I will see you on the next one. I'll probably do some updates on these lenses at some point, and you'll probably see me shooting them with film cameras as well. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed to the channel yet, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers, bye.